Welcome to Korea Spicy Bunny Stories.
My husband's coworker smiled at me and said,
Oh, you're his little sister, right?
I just stood there, frozen. I sent this man food when he worked late, waited outside his office for him, introduced myself to his coworkers. And apparently, I wasn't his wife. I was his sister.
Hello, my spicy bunnies. At first, this story sounds ridiculous. Almost funny. But the more I thought about it, the stranger it became. Because misunderstandings happen once. One awkward introduction. One wrong assumption. Then somebody corrects it immediately. But this kept going, carefully, repeatedly, to multiple people. And that completely changes the feeling of the story. Let's get into it.
My husband and I were long distance before we got married. I lived in Seoul. He lived in another city. For years, we traveled back and forth every weekend. Eventually, we decided to get married. To make that happen, my husband quit his job and moved to Seoul for me. I appreciated that deeply. Leaving your hometown and career behind is a huge decision. After moving, he started looking for a new job. The strange part was, there were plenty of companies near our apartment. Similar work, shorter commute, way more convenient. I even mentioned it casually one night. There are a lot of companies nearby. Wouldn't that be easier? But he shook his head immediately.
I like busy mornings.
What?
I like crowded trains, busy energy. It feels alive.
I laughed at the time, because honestly that sounded like him. He always liked staying busy, always moving, always out doing something, so I didn't question it. Eventually, he accepted a job almost an hour away. Train ride, transfer, long commute every single day. And back then, I didn't think much of it. We both worked full-time. Different commutes, different schedules, normal married life. Some nights he worked late. On those nights, I'd sometimes send food to his office. Late-night snacks, coffee, things for his coworkers too. Stuff like that. Sometimes I even waited outside his office after work so we could go home together. That's how I ended up meeting some of his coworkers. Small conversations. Friendly greetings. Nothing unusual. Everybody seemed nice. Everything felt normal. At least I thought it did. Yesterday changed everything. I was waiting outside his office building after work. One of his coworkers walked out and recognized me immediately. We had met before, so I smiled and greeted him first. Then he smiled warmly and said,
Oh, you're his little sister, right?
I froze. For a second, I genuinely thought maybe I heard him wrong. Sorry? He kept smiling.
He always talks about how much you take care of him.
My stomach dropped instantly, because suddenly, everything started clicking in my head. Little sister. Late night food. Taking care of him. I forced a smile and said, I'm not his sister. I'm his wife. The coworker's expression changed immediately. Not shocked. Confused. Like he thought I was joking.
Wait, seriously?
That moment felt horrible. Because his reaction told me everything already. This wasn't one random misunderstanding. This was what everyone at that office believed. The coworker left awkwardly after apologizing several times. I stayed standing outside the building alone. And honestly, the strangest part was that I was still smiling. Not because I was happy, because my brain still refused to process what was happening. I kept trying to explain it away. Maybe somebody misunderstood something. Maybe my husband made one weird joke. Maybe people just assumed things on their own. But deep down, I already knew. Because suddenly every memory felt different. The food I sent, waiting outside his office, greeting his coworkers politely. How many times had people looked at me and thought,
Oh, his younger sister.
The thought made my face burn with embarrassment. Then my husband walked out. The second he saw me, he smiled. Normal expression. Relaxed. Completely unaware. I didn't smile back. I quietly grabbed his arm and walked him farther away from the building. Then I asked, "What did you tell your coworkers I am?" He stopped walking.
What?
"One of your coworkers called me your little sister." His face changed instantly. Very small change, but I saw it. Not confusion, not shock. Recognition. That was the worst part, because he already knew exactly what I meant. I asked him directly, "Did you tell everyone you're single?" Silence. "Answer me." Then finally he said,
It's easier at work.
I stared at him. What does that even mean?
If coworkers know I'm married, people treat me differently.
That answer made me furious immediately. You introduced your wife as your sister because of workplace socializing? He started trying to explain himself. I barely listened. According to my husband, pretending to be unmarried made it easier to fit in at work. More invitations. Closer friendships. Less awkwardness with coworkers. Apparently, he thought married employees got left out socially. I work in an office too. I have married coworkers. Single coworkers. Nobody cares. And even if somebody did care, how does that justify completely erasing your wife? How does that justify treating your marriage like some embarrassing secret? Then I asked the question that made everything worse. How long? Silence again. Then quietly.
Since the beginning.
My chest tightened immediately. Since the beginning. That means every meal I sent, every time I waited outside his office, every interaction with his coworkers, every single one. I was never his wife there, just the caring younger sister. Some friends immediately asked me the obvious question afterward.
Does he have somebody at work?
I didn't want to think that. I really didn't, but the thought entered my head instantly anyway, because suddenly the long commute felt strange. The unnecessary distance. Pretending to be single. Hiding his marriage. Everything started connecting together in ugly ways. I asked him directly later that night, "Is there someone at work?" He denied it immediately. Very seriously. Very quickly. And maybe he's telling the truth. I genuinely don't know anymore. That's the problem. Because once somebody lies consistently about one thing, everything else starts feeling unstable too. We slept in separate rooms last night. Neither of us really spoke. After a while, he stopped trying to explain himself. And eventually, I stopped asking questions. Now I keep replaying old conversations in my head. The long commute. The excuse about liking crowded trains. The decision to work far away despite having better options nearby. Back then, I thought, that's just his personality. But for now, it feels different. Maybe there's nothing else going on. Maybe this really was only about fitting in at work. But even if that's true, something still feels deeply wrong about it. Because marriage should never be something you hide for convenience. And your wife should never accidentally discover that she's been introduced as your sister for months.
So tell me, if your partner introduced you as their sibling to coworkers, would you believe it was just for work? Or would that completely destroy your trust too? And the comments. People definitely had opinions about this one.
2 years into marriage and he's still pretending to be single at work? That is so weird.
His excuse honestly makes no sense. Married people work in offices every single day. Nobody introduces their wife as their sister just to fit in.
I feel like one small lie turned into a much bigger lie over time. And now he's panicking because he finally got caught.
Maybe there's no affair, but it definitely feels like there was at least somebody at work he wanted to look available for.
And don't forget to subscribe for more spicy Korean chaos.